Hello, lovely people. Welcome. This is Press Play again. As always, I am your host, Bailey. What is up?
Nothing
And
much.
also,
Happy to be here.
I'm
I
joined
miss you
with,
guys, man. I miss
see,
you guys so
I'm
much.
joined with these lovely fellas, Matt Austin and Omar Zaki.
I didn't think we'd ever get to record another podcast.
I know.
Yeah.
Crazy fucking week, dude.
Yeah.
My
Poor Omar.
computer exploding and just things happening.
How many people out there do you guys think were like tuned in Monday evening, like staying up, like their like wife or husband is like, all right, it's time to eat, and they're just like, no, they're gonna post this Little Things review, and we're gonna, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, I
how
think
many
they were
people
fine
did we let
considering what
down?
movie it was. I'm sure they were fine that we skipped this one. All
Like,
things
the only
considered.
way I will know if I should watch that movie is if Press Play Again themselves come out and they go watch this movie.
Yeah, if the press play again, folks, tell me how to feel about it.
But yeah, hey, like I said, Press Play Again, that's us. Where can you find us? I'm gonna do this in the beginning of the episode so you find us and like actually find us. You know what I mean?
That
Like,
makes sense.
we'll find you if you don't find us. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, but you can follow us on Twitter at Again Press or on Instagram at Press Play Again. And finally, you can find us on podcast services. And
I
what
thought you
are
were gonna say
those?
Hell yeah.
Facebook for a second.
Also Facebook. Just kidding. Still not Facebook. I don't think we're boycotting Facebook. Fuck
Ah.
Facebook. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Maybe
But maybe not. I don't know. But
We
anyway,
can't get it to work.
here's the long list of where you can find us. Ready? Write it down. It's Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public, which is kind of my favorite because I think Radio Public sounds the coolest.
It kind of does. I had never heard of
Pocket
that
Casts
before.
makes me think of Pocket Camp, and I'm like,
I've
do we
never
need to
heard
play
of
Animal
three of
Crossing
these
right now?
platforms, if I'm being honest with you guys.
Yeah, like
I use
Breaker.
Google Podcasts. It sucks, but I use it.
I didn't even know that existed.
What?
Wait,
Google?
why do you use that? Yeah.
I switch between Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts.
My goodness.
it's I'm just doing everything I can not to subscribe to Spotify
Yeah,
until March.
She'll listen to podcasts literally anywhere if she doesn't.
Yeah,
because
because I have Tidal
It's
and
not
they don't have
Spotify.
podcasts on it. So
God, I forget you still have Tidal, dude.
I've had
You
Tidal
need
for
to
4 years going strong.
grow
Y'all can
up.
blame
So
Kanye
lame.
West. It's
It's
all
so
his fault.
lame.
I literally
It
got
is
it so
joke
I
ever.
could listen to Life of Pablo, and then I was supposed to delete it after, and I didn't. And
3 years later.
3 years
and it's
later,
funny
we still are.
because apparently they had Life of Pablo when it first came out on Pornhub, and so somebody sent me the link, so I found it, and so I was listening to it on Pornhub, but then like halfway through, just porn started happening, so I was like, oh, I guess I'm done with this.
This is a very interesting conversation.
That was a real part of my life. Okay, we're moving on. Anyway, so you can find us at all those places. We'd love for you to join us. But starting on Thursdays, we do a movie that we pick, which this movie is the one Matthew picked. And it was
High Life. And
there it is.
And I did not know specifically what we were getting into when I picked it, guys. So
Oh,
we're
none of
about
us
to
did.
talk
Let
about
me-
some of the weirdness of this film, and I just want it to be clear. I saw Robert Pattinson's face on it. I saw space movie about a man
And
and
an
his son.
astronaut helmet? What could happen?
I was like, this has got it. Like, I must know at least 50% of this movie, and I
Okay,
did.
so I'm gonna blame you for this next part and your lack of description.
Sure.
Last time we were on here and talking about this movie. So you know how sometimes like when one of us is talking, I mean just naturally we kind of like selective hearing, right? Like we kind of hear what we want.
Right. Yeah.
So
What-
that's kind of what I did, right? I hopped on Amazon Prime, man. And the point was to watch High Life Robert Pattinson.
Oh god. Oh no.
I guess I let go of the high part.
You watched Life.
Life. 30 minutes in, and I'm like, I know we're still on the whole sci-fi genre. And this, like, nothing about. I'm like, wait, James Dean? I'm super confused at this point. Like, I'm beyond confused.
God.
Once again, I did that thing where I don't watch a single trailer, right? I'm watching Life, man. I'm like, you know what? This movie's actually not too bad. Not what I thought it was going to be. And then I pause it, and I look it up, and I'm like, wait, there's High Life 2.
Like
And,
waiting to see when Robert Pattinson would walk in.
That is
You're like,
no,
oh,
he's
no,
oh,
that
he's
is
in
Bailey,
that
that's the
movie?
funniest thing. So when I went to start
Yeah.
this movie and you type in High Life comes up, and then right next to it is a movie called Life that also has Robert Pattinson in it. And in my
But
head,
he's in the
I'm
first
joking with
Man.
myself in my head, just like, oh, is this the
Not a
first
joke,
one? Is
man.
it Life, then High Life? And I'm just like, you so
Not
fucking
a
stupid,
joke.
Matt. And then I press play.
30
and
minutes in,
watch this
and
movie.
honestly seems like a good movie. But yeah, so that's how I started my journey with High Life. Pretty
Solid.
much.
That's
Yep.
I expect nothing less from you. I'll put it that
Thank you.
way.
It's a very
You're
Omar
welcome.
turn of events to happen.
It sure is. Man.
That's what happens when Omar, we're just like, all right, we picked this movie, and Omar's like, what? Oh, okay. And then like just kind of starts playing it
I
in the
need
middle
to
of the
start
day.
watching trailers. I really need to start watching trailers and just like know what I'm walking into, which I'm
Hey,
kind
I
of glad I did for High
I
Life.
respect.
No.
I respect not knowing anything. You just
I
gotta get
didn't
the,
look up
you just gotta get the
anything.
titles of the movies down.
That's the thing. I didn't look up anything for this movie either. And again, seeing the picture, it's just
Do
Robert
you
Pattinson
do you
in it.
regret it? Like,
No,
not-
I don't know. I don't think I do. Like, oh no,
Let's get
I'm
into it. Let's
froze.
see. Let's see who
Oh
regrets what.
no!
There he is. Okay.
Am I frozen?
But yeah,
still?
let's
Okay.
let's just dive into this. But a reminder,
do it.
this will be posted Thursdays at 10 a.m. sharp.
Sharp.
But other than that, let's go on into it. High Life with Robert Pattinson. Whew, that was not I guess we'll just say what our first impressions were. It was what I think people consider provocative art, but in a film.
There's
To
a
say the
lot.
least.
Space.
There was a lot more bodily fluids than I
There were
typically like in my
so many.
movies.
There was so much like milky fluid. Like
Milky fluid.
Oh,
There was. I mean, there was
in-
everything.
it was I'm like, was she a witch? I don't know. Like it was this movie was a
Kinda.
movie. But I will say Robert Pattinson, just such a great actor. I just no matter
really
he
is,
likes
man.
weird shit, especially if you've seen The Lighthouse. If you watch that movie and this movie like back to back, you're like, oh, Robert Pattinson just like loves to be in fucking really weird movies.
He does.
But yeah,
Well,
no,
the
this
two
movie
movies
was
were produced by
Yeah, they're both
A24, right?
A24.
So I
Yeah,
think
it makes a lot of sense.
So I
so I think they're
texted-
just into like that weird shit.
me and Matt were starting it at the same time, and I texted him, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is an A24 movie. That makes sense. Like, this already is gonna
Yeah,
be like
yeah.
crazy." And he was like, "What did A24 do again?" And I was like, "Oh, like they did Hereditary, Midsummer, like all of those kind of
Uncut
movies is
Gems.
A24.
Uncut
Uncut
Gems,
Gems,
yeah.
which is
Lighthouse, yeah.
phenomenal." But so yeah, I was just like, "Oh, when you see A24 pop up, you're like, this is a ride." So yeah. That's
Right.
so far my first impression of this movie, but I don't know how y'all felt. So go ahead and tell me.
Matthew?
So this movie is interesting to me because I think this is a very well made movie. I'm not going to sit here and say I loved it, but I don't know. I don't think you're really meant to. I think I don't know a whole lot about this director. I know that this was like her first English like it was her English directorial debut. She makes a lot of foreign films. So she's highly respected from what's her name again? Is it Claire something? Claire Denis.
Claire Denis?
Claire Denis, that's
Well,
probably
yeah, it's
how you actually say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's French. Yeah.
She's French. Okay. So
So
this was her first.
So here's the thing. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's made like a lot of French movies. This movie like initially actually was supposed to be a French movie.
Oh,
But,
really?
she just couldn't imagine. She couldn't imagine like having people speak French in space, right? Like the whole idea is always like it's either American or Russian.
True.
That
makes
so
sense.
True.
just throwing that out there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I didn't know it was like a foreign director,
Yes.
which also makes more sense
Mhm.
because I feel like foreign
Right,
films always
right.
like sexualize things is very different in foreign films than it is in American films.
Right. It's almost
So that makes a
like
lot more sense,
normalized.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
right.
it's way more of like it's not a like thing that like people should be like scared of, and not
Like,
as
it's not-
Americans are either,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it definitely is different, I think, in foreign places, especially France. So it makes sense.
France of all
Right.
places. But yeah, I think if you read about like I obviously haven't seen any of her other movies, but just reading about like apparently themes of kind of like imprisonment and kind of like this like hard to look at times, like stuff like that kind of runs throughout all of her movies. And clearly this is no exception. um, so I think this movie, like, for everything that it is, like, it's not like a heavy-handed plot movie. Like, obviously, a lot kind of happens in it, but the whole kind of like space side of it is pretty straightforward. Like, they're just on this ship that's just kind of hurling towards this black hole for a mission. Um, but I think like all the kind of like things that we see go on during this, like obviously all of it is hard to watch. Like I don't that's why I say like I didn't love this movie because it's not a movie I could ever picture myself watching again, and there were so many times where I really kind of wanted to look away. But I feel like kind of like the message of this movie and kind of like what I like, just the whole experience, like was something that I still somehow enjoyed, if that makes sense. Like without actually loving the movie, and
Yeah.
it'd be hard to recommend it. Obviously, we'll get to that later. But like it just got like I feel like I got out of this movie what some version of what the director wanted me to get out of it. And
Right.
I feel like it's hard to then, even if you don't love a movie, to say that like, oh, it was bad or anything like that. Because I actually think it was really well made. It's just like, man, there was a lot of bodily fluids in this movie. There was a
Yeah,
lot.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I go back to what our gracious host said. It's I think it's more a form of art than anything, really. I
That's what
think
I
Sure.
thought.
that's the idea behind what she's trying to make the movie, like just pure art. My initial reaction, I think, was maybe a bit on the opposite side. Of course, like once I hear about space, right, my mind just jumps to fucking The Martian,
It's
Interstellar,
not any of
Moon. So
those.
I'm expecting something. Absolutely not even close. But I will say I enjoyed the experience because it's not what I was expecting. I was literally on the edge of my seat the whole time. Once again, not sure what the fuck to expect. It was just like one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. It made me just as uncomfortable as I was watching The Lighthouse.
Yep.
Yes, 100%.
And I mean, dude, Robert
Same feelings.
Pattinson. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I love that because not a lot of movies do that. Where I legit, while I'm watching the movie, it just kind of like fucks me up, and I'm just like, I don't feel good. Like I just feel very uncomfortable. So I did appreciate that part. And yeah, dude, I mean, Robert Pattinson just like once I watched Lighthouse, he definitely just made his way into like my top actors list or whatever. Like, dude, he's so fucking
He's
good, and
so
he's really
fucking
good in this
good.
Really
movie.
commit.
So
If
good.
you guys liked him in this movie, here's a treat for you guys. Him and the director are partnering up again. 2022, they have another movie coming up.
Really? What's it
Wow.
called?
Here,
Is there a name?
like Sun on the Moon or something like that. So I'm
Would it
guessing
be
it
a
has to do
sequel?
with space. I don't think so because I was looking at the cast list. It's literally him and one other girl. She's actually popular. I just forgot who it was. And I didn't see anything else about it besides that. So I feel like if it was a sequel, it would have been more obvious.
That's true.
Interesting.
Which actually I guess is just naturally going to come up in the conversation. I wanted to like see what you guys thought about the ending and what it meant.
I know. I'm
Well,
excited to
wasn't
talk
like
about that.
100%.
Let's just
Yeah,
dive
yeah.
in then. Okay.
Do it.
So I have to say, I I loved seeing Robert Pattinson be a good dad. Like
Yeah.
in the beginning, like all the
Yeah.
stuff with the baby, I was like, this is adorable. Like, I fully believe that Robert Pattinson, when he was filming this movie, was like really enjoying like taking care of the baby.
Oh,
I thought it was
dude,
great.
actually, I have a very fun fact for you guys.
Oh, I
Initially,
love
the
fun
baby,
facts.
it was two twins. So it was two twins, and they were just gonna like it was two identical twins. They're gonna switch out between them, right? Literally a day before they start filming, the baby and Robert Pattinson just couldn't get along. Every time he'd pick them up, the baby would just fucking scream and holler, wanting their mom. So he gets this fucking grand old idea, right? One of his longtime friends had a baby. He's been around. So he's like, wait, can we just use this baby? And that's
Really?
literally
Use
the
that
baby on
baby?
screen. Yes. It's
That's
his
so
longtime friend's
crazy.
kid. Yeah, I thought that was
Oh,
incredible, man.
that's
That's
so
so
cool
fucking
because
awesome.
That's
I was definitely
And you
thinking
see it
like,
on screen, man. Yeah.
yeah, because I was like, how does this baby act like so?
Well,
I
She
feel like
knows
the
him.
baby's
She
acting
knows.
really well.
well, because
But
I
yeah,
was
Yeah.
thinking that too, and it was more just like in my brain thinking like maybe this is something I don't really think about in movies, but like when you're a baby that's that young, like you're not like an actor yet, right?
yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, how do they train like or how does a baby even know to like not look at the camera, or like that's got to be so on the part of like the actor that's
Mhm.
interacting with the baby. So like serious props to
Of
Robert
course, yeah.
Pattinson, and obviously that makes a lot more sense that he already kind of knew this baby, you know.
That's
So
kind of genius that
but
they
yeah,
did that.
because like just think about that. Like if the
It was
baby
his
ever
idea
just like
too, man.
looks at the camera, like that would essentially like ruin the whole thing. So like it's on the actor to be able to like engage with the kid enough
The
to
baby,
yeah,
right?
to like keep them in it
I think
themselves.
it's
So
something.
it's pretty interesting.
I think they take that a lot more serious now, because if you like pay attention to older movies, like much older, 20, 30 years older movies or whatever,
There's a lot of babies looking at
even like
cameras.
infants, whatever, you could, it's so fucking obvious to see, like it's just very, very
Interesting.
obvious. So yeah, so I think they care. Obviously people, like every fucking person is a fucking movie critic now, you know, so
Look at
they're
us.
very anal, and they want to make sure. Yeah, we're anal movie critics, so yeah, just wanted to
Man,
drop that
speaking of
fun fact.
anal,
That's super interesting. I would have had no idea. Oh god.
I love how I
Wow,
just
Bailey.
Great
segued.
transition, Bailey.
It
Yeah,
was
let's
it
finish.
was I just there was like a point in this movie that took such a turn that I just like wasn't prepared for with like, and it was the sex box.
Yeah,
Yes.
100% was the sex
yeah.
box.
The sex box.
Because
Wait,
Yeah.
isn't it called the fuck box?
yeah, they called it the fuck box, I think. But like
Yeah.
she goes in there and
Jesus.
she's in there and like good for her, like enjoying herself. But like she's in there for like the scene felt like it went on for like 10 minutes.
I feel like that scene was the first truly disturbing scene of
I
this
guess-
movie, and
Yeah.
probably the first disturbing scene of Press Play Again, for that matter.
Yes, because
In all of
it
these
was
movies.
it was like one of those things that made me realize that she was also a criminal. Because I, for some reason, was like, oh, this doctor agreed to go.
Wait, aren't they all criminals?
Yeah, but like
Everybody
for some
on
reason,
board,
because
but
she's a doctor, I was just like
Oh,
assuming that she
gotcha.
was just someone assigned to take care of them.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I realized, like, oh no, like she is assigned to be on this
Oh.
because she's a doctor, but like she was also in prison.
Because it's
So
after
Right.
that, right, when she says how she killed like her family.
she
and
killed her whole
husband.
family.
Yeah. It's, like,
Yeah.
fucked up.
But like I just found that kind of
Is-
interesting, and then it made me start thinking of it. And then when they do the whole flashback to like back to Earth, where like someone's interviewing this like he was either a doctor or some type of professor, I don't know, but he was saying, he kind of explained what was happening. He was like, yeah, like America, or I don't know if it was America or not. It's just somewhere in the government they are sending death row like inmates to space, telling them that they're doing something for science, but really they're just sending them out there to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Right.
that is a crazy plot. That is like a crazy reason that all of this is happening.
Yeah.
I found that
Apparently, a
very
lot of people
interesting.
on the internet have a problem with that specific scene you just like mentioned, Bailey, because it's like it just. I think people don't
Place.
like the way it's shot and just the way it jumps from like all this kind of like beautiful space stuff to like this kind of like
A
weirdly
train.
edited train where they
Yeah.
just kind of like it's just an exposition dump, right? Where they just explain
Mhm.
it, but. I mean, they kind of like I don't know how else they could have really done that, but they needed to explain kind of what was going on, and that felt like the logical part of the movie to do that in. So
Yeah.
it
Was
See,
didn't
that
feel out of
like
place
a
to me.
flashback scene, or wasn't it like they were jumping back in time?
They were
back and
jumping
forth?
back in time a lot, but then that specific scene Bailey's talking about is like obviously unrelated to any of the other characters. It's just two
Right.
random
Just, like,
characters that you
explaining
never
it.
see again, and maybe I think that's why people maybe have a problem with it, which I get. It's kind of weird, but
Well, that's what
Makes
I was
sense.
gonna
what else are
say.
you gonna do? don't
I
know.
was thinking like with that scene, I liked it because I liked that there was like this. It seemed like there was this guy who wanted to fight this happening still, and I was like, oh, well,
Mhm.
that's cool. My problem was like, yeah, then if you're
Nothing,
not going
yeah.
to show anything else on Earth of them trying to stop this from happening, then what is the point? I mean, you kind of can just have someone on like the spaceship explain why they're there. I guess at the same time, they're not really supposed to know that they're going there for no reason. Like they're supposed to think they're going there to do stuff for science, to like figure things out for the world. And that's the whole reason they even sign on to it. I think they start figuring out over time, like, why are we here?
Yeah.
But until you hear like a professional say, this is the exact thing that's happening, you won't really know. So I get why it happens. I just, yeah, it felt like out of place. So that was my only thing with that. But I still think the whole concept of it is really cool. I mean,
The
it's
concept of the
horrible, but
plot, you
it's
mean?
cool. Yeah, like the whole
Yeah.
concept of them just shipping death row
Yeah.
like inmates into space for no reason, just to get rid of like they're getting
Fucking
rid of
sick.
prisoners.
But yeah, no, cool.
It's
Yeah,
sick,
no, I
but
agree.
like it's something I've never like heard of, like a concept in a movie before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't focus on like anybody in prison or inmates or criminals. Like they don't like to glorify criminals.
Right,
So it's
of course.
cool that
Yeah.
they were trying to
Well,
show
yeah.
like how inhumane this is, which to show how inhumane they are, it's even worse when you get that shipment of just like dogs that came out there. Oh, that was so all the
Dude,
stuff
that
with
was
dogs in this
Well,
movie.
this
disgusting,
whole
man.
like, and some of this obviously went over my head, but just kind of like reading about the movie afterwards, because I had a couple questions and just kind of like diving into Reddit and stuff, and people like basically agree like this movie is kind of like it's like it's a take on kind of like the whole like prison system and like the privatization of prisons and stuff like that, and kind of showing how like there are issues with that.
Oh,
And so it's kind of like a message on that, but then put into like a space movie, right? But like the space is almost just like a construct for the story that they're trying to tell of just like the issues with like privatizing prisons and like experimenting on people and stuff
right.
like that. And that once I was reading that, I was like, this makes total sense. Like this is 100% what she must have been going for with this, because yeah, like
Right.
the whole plot, like Bailey was just saying, like it's fucked up, and then obviously what goes on this ship, which I'm sure we're gonna talk about some of it, but like it,
Oh my God,
it's
dude.
rough.
I mean, just so much. I just want to say before we actually talk about like what happens in the ship and just like
I don't think any of us
all the weird
actually
shit.
want to even talk about it.
Yeah, not really. But my only gripe. I mean, I had a few gripes. It's not a great movie by any means. I'm
Wow.
just seeing it as like a form of art, right? I'm seeing it as. I mean, I wouldn't say this is like a good movie even, but I would say it's an experience of a movie. But my main problem, which we didn't get many fighting scenes. But the fighting scenes, like it's a 2018, 2019 movie,
Mhm.
right? I mean, like you could tell the fighting scenes just fucking sucked, right? Like they were punching pretty much air, and if you pay close attention, it's not like
Like choreographed or
like
anything.
it wasn't well made. Right. It just kind of
I'm
almost looked like
curious.
it almost looked like a fucking French movie, like an actual international movie. I mean, really,
But I think it
But
basically is,
I
right?
mean,
I
it's
think it is like it is a foreign film that just happens to be English. So I assume the budget for this movie is
English.
low. I'm trying to find what it
Oh, I'm
is.
sure it has to be.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, like with this director, I could be wrong, and the writing as well. It's like their whole thing is like we're not focusing on the fighting. Like the point is to focus on
Sure, yeah.
the story of like the art. It's almost like the author telling the story of all these inmates that like all have very different personalities, and they're telling them through the
Right.
actions that happen, which I have problems with some of them, but it
Real quick,
was
the budget for this was 8 million euro. So I think that's like around
oh
Oh, okay.
9.5 million
yeah,
US
that's like
dollars. So
nothing.
it's very small, low budget movie.
Is it? Oh, is it? Wouldn't it be like around 14, 15 million?
I don't know. All I did was I took 8 million euros. I typed it into Google euros to dollars, and it says 9.6 million
You getting fucking
United
ripped
States
off
dollars.
from my jerseys, bro?
You probably are, bro. I
Interesting.
don't know anything
All
about
right.
it, but
But yeah, this this movie, I don't know. I can't get my words out. I feel like I was just
tough
so
one.
blown away by the storytelling of like Robert Pattinson and the kind of character he's playing. I think it's an interesting way to go about showing all these flashbacks from his past but not explaining any of
And
it.
telling
Like,
it super out of order, right? Like when you finally
yeah.
piece everything together, like the first maybe 15 minutes of the movie, all the scenes of him with the baby, that's chronologically mostly like the final like fourth of the movie, or like obviously
Mm.
then she grows up, but everything we see for the next basically hour happens before that. It's kind of weird.
It's almost like you're seeing like how he got to the end. But then you see that it's like you're seeing the middle of the movie in the beginning, and then the beginning of the movie in the middle, and
Yeah.
then the end of the movie at the end. So like, which I always find that kind of stuff interesting, and I liked
Yeah.
that. I just was like really not cool with seeing so many dead damn dogs. I'll say it. I'll say it
Yeah.
right now. It's
I know
not
it
a
was
fun
gross,
thing
dude.
for
It was
me.
disgusting.
That's
I did not like that ship. I did not like seeing it. I don't know how that girl didn't cry her eyes out when she was like, "Give me a dog," and her dad was like, "No," and I'm like, I mean, fuck you, give her a dog. She's been alone forever. Like,
yeah, that
I
was
I,
rough.
I
That
was
was
so.
I guess like the whole point of that too was just
I think it's just showing how inhumane people
Yeah.
treat others that like don't seem like they're enough or worth anything.
Well, that, and then
It's
it
awful.
also kind of just ties up Robert Pattinson's what's his name in this movie? Something weird.
Monte or
Monte or
I
Monte.
think
I
that
don't even
or
remember anybody
Monte.
ever
I think
saying his name.
there
So when
wasn't many people who had their names said. I
yeah.
feel.
But like, so his whole thing, right? Like the whole thing he didn't he like kill his best friend because they killed his dog or something when he
That's
was a
what
kid?
you're led to believe because like the dog was dead.
Right. So I imagine then when you get to the end of the movie, like him stumbling on this ship and it being filled with dogs and a lot of dead dogs that have, whatever, like devoured themselves. That's like kind of like bringing back his like childhood like horrors and trauma and like bringing them back to the forefront right before he obviously has to kind of accept what we believe, I guess. I don't know what y'all think about the ending, but it kind of seems like him kind of just accepting death or going into the unknown, which is probably death.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
Based on
that's
what we
what's so
saw with
crazy.
when the girl went through the black hole. But
Right.
I think it's like him and like the witch doctor. I'm just gonna call her
the witch doctor.
doctor.
Let's keep it at that. She's the witch doctor.
She like
Dibs.
was so interested in like reproduction and like childbirth, and it's
A
like
little too interested.
but that's the
I'm
thing,
with
you then
Omar, a
find
little
out
too
that she
interested.
literally killed like all of her children, like
Yeah.
suffocated all of her children. Like that scene where she's like with the other crewmate and like she's like, did you really like suffocate? It was so hard. She was like, did you suffocate your children like with their little pillows over their little heads? And I was like, this is a lot. Like this is too much for me.
Yeah.
And then she stabs her husband or something, but I was like, that makes sense to why she's so adamant about making a child. It's like she's trying to, I don't know if she's trying to right her wrongs. I don't know what she's doing.
Do they say why she killed her family though?
I think she's just crazy. I
She's
mean, look
crazy.
at her. Like, look at the way she acts through it. She literally like rapes Robert Pattinson for his sperm.
I was gonna say I didn't
Yeah.
appreciate that, man. And then
well-
they like fucking just zoom in, the sperm's like sliding down her like
Oh.
leaking down her leg, and then she takes it and fucking.
They didn't even try
It's
to
too
hide any of
artsy
like
for
the
me.
sperm in this movie. Like they were just like,
So
no,
here's
you're gonna see it.
I don't think any of us
Yeah,
were prepared for how foreign this
No.
film was going to be.
I
Here's the
apologize.
thing. Here's the thing. I didn't. I was not prepared because it was a movie Matthew recommended, right? And knowing Matthew, this is not what I was expecting, man. I'll say that.
Here's the thing.
I like the surprise.
Yeah, it was certainly a surprise. This is why I'm enjoying doing this podcast with you guys so far, though, because this is a movie that I've wanted to watch for the last year. Like a bunch of people, when Robert Pattinson was officially confirmed as Batman, and especially once we saw like footage of it, I was like, I want to see everything this guy's in. You know, at some point, Twilight is not enough for me. He's fantastic masterpiece, but we got to see what else this dude does. And so this was one of the first movies that like popped out because it's a space movie or whatever. And for the most part, this movie has pretty good reviews. I can't remember who I know that has seen it, but somebody told me that it's a little bit iffy, and now I probably understand what they meant.
A little bit iffy.
I think it was Chris Murphy, but somebody told me that it was like a little bit weird, and so maybe some of the stuff that we're talking about right now is why. But so like, oh god, I totally just lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I was saying.
You're talking about it was well rated for the most part.
Right. Oh, why I like doing this podcast with you guys is because like I still never ended up watching it like all this time. Like there were so many nights where I almost put it on, but I obviously didn't know everything about the movie either. And
right, of course.
And I think if I had read about it beforehand and kind of knew exactly what I was getting into, I might not have watched it. Granted, I could have just randomly turned it on one day and watched it anyway, not knowing like this. But I feel like just
didn't tell you anything.
Yeah, but like so this being a movie that was like instantly in like my back catalog of like I want to see it, and then lining up with our sci-fi stuff right off the bat. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have watched it knowing everything, and so like just having to finally watch it, like this isn't a movie I'd normally be into, and I still don't think I'm into it. But you know, it's just something that it's an experience that I'm like glad I went on and kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Got to see.
I get that because I'm really glad I watched it too. In a sense, I guess I just
it wasn't fun.
I feel like it's not fun, but like there's so much visual, like the visual stuff that happened in this movie. Like I thought it was really cool how he put all of them. Like at the time, you didn't know why he was putting everybody in like their suits, like their astronaut suits.
That title card when it finally says
High
Life,
like throws them off.
So cool.
They do a lot. They play a lot
creepy,
with like just showing the black abyss of space, and I think that's really cool because when he opens the door and is just throwing them all out, everything's so silent, and you forget that, like, space is just dead silent. Like, there's no noise of anything, and that's
I
such a
think I
weird
think that's supposed
concept
to
for
like
me.
I think it's supposed to like emphasize how truly alone they are and just how truly
100%.
But that's
isolated
how
they are.
space is. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's so crazy. Like, any space
Right,
movie you
right.
watch, there's always a scene where everything's just
Well,
dead quiet, and I love that.
you know, I know this is a movie in space, but I'm not gonna really say this is a sci-fi movie. I'm not even gonna say this is really a space movie. I think she specifically chose the setting of space,
Mhm.
focusing on the characters, and once again, just how isolated that they're meant to be, and just like so away and just like alone
Yeah.
from
I
the
Yeah.
definitely
world,
still
really.
think
Because
this
I
is a
mean, if they're
sci-fi
all just fucking
movie. I
I
just wouldn't yeah, I
yeah,
don't think it's a space movie, I guess, but I kinda do at the same
right,
time.
well,
I think
so
it's just a different take.
that's the thing. It can obviously you
right,
can
right.
categorize it a million different ways. Like if looking on its
Mm.
surface level, I feel like it's still sci-fi, it's still space. But I get what Omar's saying in the sense that like what actually happens plot wise, like this movie almost could have been the exact same things happen with the exact same characters if it straight up was in a prison on the back of a now it's getting
Go on an
ridiculous. It's on the
island or
back of a truck or
something.
something. But yeah, basically like a prison that
Oh
that
my
is
gosh.
heading towards some type of oblivion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Right,
like
right.
all the space stuff and all the sci-fi stuff was basically like dressing for it, but like it almost I mean realistically like it disguised itself as a sci-fi movie, and I'm sure a lot of people went through the same thing we did, turning this movie on not expecting it to be what it was.
Mhm.
And I'm sure people turned it off halfway through. I'm sure people that saw it in theaters probably left, but I think anybody that sat through it like we did, you kind of got an experience totally different than what you thought you were going to get. um and
I mean,
hopefully you take
but
something from it.
by the end, I feel like you start just like losing focus on like the actual story of the movie, and you start just focusing more on Robert Pattinson's bond with like this child that is actually ends up being his child.
Yeah.
And I did like that. I do will say I think the hardest thing for me to watch, other than the like other rape scene with that terrible
Yeah,
man that
both
like
of them
they
were tough, but that one in
kill.
particular, because we haven't really talked about that, but yeah, that scene
But and that's
obviously
what
was
I was on edge like the whole movie because I was like, this dude is so creepy. He's like acting weird. I'm like, how has nothing happened already? Like
yeah.
it seems like all these prisoners just like on a ship locked together. Like it's just shocking nothing else happened. And then that scene happens, and I'm like, cool. It's like way worse than I ever thought they were gonna do it. I
Yeah,
was
because
like
they
not feeling
they
that.
show a lot with that, and I agree. That's one of
Way
those
too
things where
much.
that's
It's hard
why
to watch.
yeah, it's one of those things where like how could you finish this movie and say like, "Man, I loved it. Like I want to watch it again." Because there's stuff like that that like you don't want to see and you want to turn away.
Aren't
And
meant to be watched more than once, I feel.
yeah, and it's one of like that's what's it's just interesting filmmaking. It's stuff that like I don't know. I like when directors
I
and
will
just
say,
when they make stuff like this that is, I don't like watching this stuff, but it's when it's told in a way that I don't know. There's a point to this movie, right? Like there's
yeah.
purpose, there's like reason behind all this stuff, and it's sometimes stuff like this is just like yeah, it
The
contributes
way
to a
the
larger
artist
story.
decided to produce their art. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no reason other than that. But I will say the other like thing that was hard to watch was when the woman, I can't remember her name, but she like killed the pilot and then like got in the plane, the like I don't know, the ship, the escape pod, I don't know.
uh,
Um
Boys, I think is her name.
yeah,
Mia
she got
Goth.
in instead to go like into the black hole to see what they would find. That scene was
Yeah, that
tough with,
so
like, all the
Yep.
blood.
no, yeah, because
That was rough. It
that scene is
was weird.
it's weird and it's crazy because like I was reading somebody say like how this movie is almost like the anti-Interstellar, and in a couple
Yeah.
ways, like obviously it's an easy comparison to compare it to another space movie, but like so many like sci-fi movies like Interstellar and The Martian and stuff we talked about before, like they glorify all space travel in a way that
Mm.
like in a cool like in Interstellar is still based a lot in science, and we all love Interstellar. I fucking adore Interstellar, but like if you actually read about like what it would be like going through a black hole or like going into space and stuff. I'm not saying this movie got everything right, but the black hole stuff in particular, like that scene that happened to her is like literally if you look up what going into a black hole would be like that is the most accurate from what I've read that I've ever seen in a movie, where it's
Yeah.
horrifying, but it's like like your body would just be stretched out and it would just explode as you get to like the event horizon, and
Mm.
and it's one of those things where like yeah, then take a movie like Interstellar, and Matthew McConaughey just kind of like falls into the black hole, and it's fucking cool, and it works
So
for that movie.
graciously. Yeah.
But yeah, to see with this movie on top of all the other horrors that we've seen, to then get a scene like that towards the end, where it's like, how could it get any worse? And
It
because
gets worse.
that scene was tough. That was like I didn't like seeing that, but I found it interesting that
Yeah.
just the committing to the kind of space stuff in this film is weird.
Yeah.
I
No, I
was-
mean, dude,
it's-
it was an experience, man.
It was hard to watch that scene, but
Yeah.
I appreciated it because I did when I was watching. I was
Right.
like, man, this probably literally is what happens to humans' bodies if they go into a black
Yes.
hole, which is terrifying. And I'm glad we don't have to do it. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I hope
Unless you
I
commit a
hope
crime.
before that happens, man, that would suck. I do want to say, what do y'all think happened? First of all, loved that Andre 3000 was in this movie, and loved him in this movie. He was great,
Yeah,
and
he
he
was
was really
good.
likable. What do y'all think happened to him? Because his body just kind of like
I think it's
goes into the garden.
kind of implied that he
Is it
just
symbolizing that he like killed himself?
yeah.
Yes, no. So I was reading about that. Apparently, it's supposed to symbolize that he gave back in terms of like where he died is like where everything just kind of rises, the garden rises, or whatever, and that was his way of kind of like
dude,
Yeah,
especially because right before that scene, he
Buries
talks
him?
about how. Well, I think he does. He kills himself, right? Is that's how he dies?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's how he dies.
But
like,
so, yeah.
I think he either asks Robert Pattinson to bury him, or maybe does Robert Pattinson bury him alive? I don't think that's what happens. But
so I'm sure he
no.
like kills himself.
Well, that's the thing. I think what Omar just said is like what it's supposed to be symbolic for. Like I think that's right, especially because right before that, when he's talking about
He
like
has
how
that-
he has a
mhm.
conversation with his wife and all that, and saying like he's trying to make up for his wrongs, and doesn't she
Right.
basically tell him that like this isn't gonna do that? This is just gonna be like leaving us again and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in his mind, it was, and I think it's that whole thing of like at the end of your life coming to terms with whatever you need to for yourself, and I think that's what it showed.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I loved him. Yeah, he was great. I
Like
didn't even know that
that.
was Andre 3000 until Bailey
Yeah.
told me.
No, like the second I saw his face, I was like, no, I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I mean, I
was
didn't know he was in this movie,
excited.
but I was surprised when I saw him too. All right, well, I'm gonna hop on. Well, actually, I'm on right now. Rotten Tomatoes, real quick.
Okay.
Just because I'm very, very curious to see how the critic score compares to the audience score.
I
'cause
want to
feel
see
like
the
maybe.
audience score.
I'm very curious too because I have no idea.
Okay, hold up. I just saw what it is. What do you guys think? Which one do you think is higher?
Oh, the
audience or
critic.
the
critic
The
score is
critic is
gonna be way
100%
higher.
going to be higher.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, the audience score is
Like,
holy shit, 41.
yeah, that sounds
Wow.
about right.
Wow.
Okay, 41. That's honestly a bit higher than what I thought it was gonna be. The critic, 82.
Yep.
Yeah.
82%.
Yeah.
Figured.
Which,
Wow, like
okay.
doubled, literally.
Aligns with what you guys said. Yeah, apparently this movie only made, and this is only USA, the box office, 1.2 million.
What'd you say? You broke up a little bit.
1.2.
1.2 million. Wow.
How much they made?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
poopy.
that's I know I want to say when it came out, it was in select theaters. Now I don't know if it was only a USA release, like if it was
Oh.
only in the US. I'm sure it wasn't, but
No,
I
I
mean,
think
No,
yeah.
I'm sure it was. It seems like a
You
movie
really
that
think
they
it
would.
was?
I wouldn't be surprised if this was a movie that had like a selected release and like was only released to like theaters that play foreign films, like
Well,
AMC
I
and places
think-
like
well,
that
I was
don't
gonna say,
always do
yeah,
that.
Right,
but
but-
I think A24 is more popular too. Not more popular, but they are popular across
That's
like
what-
Europe and
Yeah, I
stuff.
think y'all are both right because what Omar's saying is like Bailey's saying it only didn't come out in every
America
theater
is what I
across
mean.
America, which I don't
Right.
think it did either. But I think it obviously had an international release because I think this movie was probably more
Yeah.
popular in other countries.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh man, it was a film.
it was a
That's
film.
the best way to put it.
Absolutely.
Something I feel like they'd have at Sundance, you know?
Yeah, I think that's where it premiered, maybe, or one of
I'm
those
sure.
film festivals that we
Yeah.
can't go to anymore because of
Yeah.
COVID. What did you guys have any like actual thoughts on the ending? Like, I mean, I feel like it's probably like they go into the black hole and die because we already saw what happened.
I
To
just
the other
assumed,
girl,
yeah, he's walking off into
yeah.
to his death. Like he was just like at that point, he was like, okay, like you know what, I've been through a fucking journey. I'm ready to accept my my fate.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
it's like I kind of took it as they were dying or he was dead already, but like in his subconscious, like that was the way he wanted it to end, is like them just walking off and he
Yeah.
like seeing her and like a good light and like free, I guess. I don't know. That was the best I took out of the
That's what I think. I think the whole important thing was him coming to terms with it. Like I think the finding that dog ship, as fucked up as it was, I think plays a big part in you just
Oh yeah, I
realizing
think
that
he
he's
realized there was no hope.
right. And then I think because I think that was basically like as they're approaching the black hole, like there's just always a possibility like they find another ship. It's like, oh, are they gonna be able to help us or something? And it's just dogs. And then like, is anybody gonna come and save us? Like obviously nobody did. And then like talking to his daughter and being like, are you not scared? And she's like, no, not at all. And I think that on top of what he just experienced was him finally just accepting like maybe he's not scared either, or maybe he still is, but he's just ready to go. And because they literally have no other choice at that point, they're just at the end.
Exactly.
And I don't know, just all the shots of space in this movie were really fucking good for such a low budget movie.
Yeah, they're very believable.
They're very like a lot of it looked like almost like the really cool shots, like the one where they're kind of like seeing the stars go like outwards, and then the black hole shots specifically, like they were almost on par with stuff in Interstellar. Not in like I mean, they're not as like sweeping and like massive, but just like in terms of like actually looking good and looking cool in like space, like they were very like the way the black hole looked, I was like, this is really like pretty good looking, especially considering we have that shot of what a black hole looks like.
It's a nice black hole.
Yeah.
Gotta love a deep black hole, you know.
But yeah, that's.
Oh
God, we're getting into.
I took it too far.
I just read something pretty interesting. Since we were talking about like film festivals, I just kind of wanted to see where it actually premiered and everything. So the world premiere was at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2018. And apparently, it caused multiple walkouts during its screening because of how graphically disturbing and provocative it was.
Why am I not surprised?
Hey, fucking dude, with all the blood and sperm and fucking leaks and bodily fluids that we saw.
Like ridiculous.
I mean,
when I tell you I was not expecting it.
The fuck box alone, like that scene on its own, before you even get into any of like the actual like.
Do you want to know when I got like the most uncomfortable?
When?
It's literally when she walks in there and she's fucking putting a condom
onto the
thing. Like she really fucking needed to. Yeah.
Man, the funny thing is, it was whenever she popped it up, and like you just see this little silver dildo pop up. I was like, "Who?" I didn't think.
I was like, wait, is this like an actual thing?
I still wasn't expecting it. Like it was getting all sensual at first, and I was like, "Okay, this is like kind of weird." Then it like pops up, and I was like, "Oh,
it's like
whoa, this took like a big."
Give them credit though, like even with all like this sexual stuff or whatever, I never saw this movie as like sexy or sexual or anything like.
And I don't think that's what they were trying to do.
100%.
Right. I mean, I really do think it was pure, like it was pure art.
I agree.
I think is what they were just kind of trying to.
They weren't trying to like overly sexualize any of it. They were trying to just show it in kind of like its purest form, even the grotesqueness of some of it and the like horrifying things that happen that are obviously morally wrong and terrible that we got into later. But it was just trying to show like a real take on all of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And make us uncomfortable, and it fucking worked.
Just to say, Matt, you picked a doozy. You did, but I'm still thankful for it. So I feel like we should. I feel like we should do our little recommendation meters. You want to go first, Matt, since this was your recommendation to start off with?
Yeah. Oh man, I didn't come up with that.
Now that you've seen it,
I'd give it 1 space candies out of 10 in terms of recommending it. Here's the thing. I really do. I think this movie.
You don't want people to think you're like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're like, go watch this movie.
I feel like there's only a very specific kind of person I could recommend this to, like because we talked about it. It teeters on that border of like, is this sci-fi? Is this whatever? And even if you might consider it a little bit, like I couldn't recommend this to anybody I know that like just like sci-fi because it's nothing like that. Like I would never tell my parents or family to watch this.
Oh God, no.
I don't think I'd tell most of my friends like this is a must-watch. You know, even outside of you. Like I don't know. Like I don't know who needs to see this movie. It's not like one of those movies that even like really lifts you up or anything. But it's still an interesting thing, and it's still a important thing. And when you make the comparisons like prisons and stuff like that. But I definitely think it's like a hard recommend. Even though personally, I think the movie is great. I think it's like fantastic. I didn't find a whole lot wrong with it. There's a lot I didn't love about it, but
I agree.
But it was a really good movie. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Really
nice. All right, Ohms. I think we know how you feel.
Well, Yeah, kind of. But honestly, I'm on the once again other skill of Matthew. I didn't think it was that great, but I just to people around my age, because yeah, I would not like recommend this to like a parent or obviously a kid.
They would
Around
hate you.
people my age, I would recommend this to literally everyone.
Damn.
Because I think it's an experience, man. Like, dude, we've
I'm
seen so
glad
many
you're my
movies.
friend, man. Cause see, you would recommend this to me, and I otherwise I wouldn't have known.
Well, I mean,
Hypothetically,
that's
obviously, it's not
yeah.
what happened, but
That's
in
not what
another
happened.
world.
But no, I mean, dude, I would like if it's someone around my age, like within 3 years younger, older, whatever, and I know they're into movies. I mean, dude, I've seen so like we've all seen so many movies. I've never experienced it. Like the closest thing I've experienced to this is The Lighthouse. Obviously,
Yeah.
same
Mhm.
same
Oh
actor,
yeah.
A24, so it makes sense. But it's an experience.
It
Like it's an
definitely
experience
is.
you're not going to experience with any other movie. So no, for sure, I would, dude. If you have Amazon Prime, go watch it because you're never going to see anything like this. So,
True.
yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna stick with my same meter I've been doing, which is throwing that candy in that popcorn. And for this, I would compare it to just getting popcorn. Do not
Okay.
add any
Damn.
candy. Mostly
Damn.
because you may lose your appetite depending on the images you see. So why waste the good chocolate? That's what I say.
I may or may not have had leftover buffalo wings in the fridge last night. I went to pee. I got a little hungry and I realized I still had them. So I took the two of them. I put some buffalo sauce on them, sat down, pressed play. 30
Oh
seconds
god.
later, that girl's head exploded in space. And I was just like, I don't want to eat anything anymore.
My God.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
just
saying. And the thing is, I'm the same. Where I think it's actually the same with Matt on the stance that this is actually a good film. Like I think it is good. I think that was made really well, and
it's
there's
really well
no.
made. It's
I
really
don't
well
think
made,
there's
yeah.
no. I think there's no like dips in the storytelling because it's like they're not even trying to really tell a story. I think it's cool. Like I will say, I think it's a really cool
Uh,
movie. I wouldn't really recommend it to most people because I think people would be kind of turned off by a lot that happens in it,
Be like,
unless
Bailey,
it's
what is
people I
wrong with
know
you?
that like movies. So yeah, that's kind of where I
right.
stand too. Still
Would you
super stoked
okay,
that we
would you
watched
recommend
this.
this to Mike?
Oh,
Would
Mike,
you
yeah,
recommend this
Bailey's
to Mike?
brother.
Mike,
Mike
if
is
no
Bailey's
one
brother,
knows, it is
everybody.
my
Mike is
brother.
Bailey's brother.
I actually told him today I watched this movie, and he goes, "Cool," and I was like, "Cool," and that was the end
It's
of that.
funny
That was it.
But like,
when the
I would tell
movie
him to watch this. I think he'd be like, I don't think he'd. I think he'd be disturbed because yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he loves movies. I think he'd be disturbed still, but like everyone should be with some things that happen in this.
Well,
So
when the movie starts and kind of like the music and like visuals you see, at least for the first 5 minutes, it reminded me a lot of that movie Prodigal that he convinced me and Bailey to watch.
Prodigy
Prodigy.
or Prodigal, one of them. It's with us. It's with not Oscar Isaac.
I can't think of his name either. Mandalorian.
Why can't we think of his name?
Pedro
Shut up,
Pascal?
guys. Everybody's never gonna watch this fucking thing. Pedro Pascal.
No,
Jesus.
Pedro Pascal.
It
Jesus.
affects everybody.
But he's in that, and yeah, it's less disturbing, but kind of the same type of storytelling.
Or
I
just
feel.
visually, really. I feel like
Yeah,
it
that
reminded
too.
me of it, but yeah, very
But yeah.
different movie.
So I would tell him whether or not he watches it. Who's to say? But but other than that, I
Don't
still
do
think
it,
this was a
Mike.
good movie, and it was super exciting to watch it. Like, because it was one of those movies where like. Out of everything we've watched so far, it's the movie that takes the cake on the not expecting it at all. Like, my
Oh,
God.
for sure. Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, dude, yeah.
But anyway.
Anything Robert's in, just I want to watch it. I want to watch it
I
all.
can't wait. I'm so
So
excited
good.
for him to be Batman still. I feel like he would have saved space, honestly, if he had the means to.
I think if he
Like
could have, he
Bruce
would have.
Wayne. Exactly. But yeah. So anyway, guys, this has been a pleasure. Hope you guys enjoy this if you listen and or watch us talk about this crazy ass movie. If you want to watch it, where can they find it, Matt?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Premium.
You got different options. You can watch either Life or High Life.
Yeah, just take a ride on either
I
one.
honestly look, if it's like a night and you're by yourself, I recommend Life. Okay, it's a bright movie. It seems fun, funny. But I will say this: High Life, I would not watch with anybody, man. I'm glad I did not watch this with Jade. It would have
No.
been hella uncomfortable.
Watch that shit alone.
Yeah. This
honestly.
was a movie you want to watch by yourself and kind of just, I don't know, you and your soul. That's it.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Well, we're ending this. So bye, babies.
Wait, real quick
Oh,
never
never mind. Just kidding.
what are we telling
Oh, I
everybody going
forgot.
forward? What's
The
going
next
on with us?
movie. I'm crazy. I was trying to end us too soon.
Crazy.
Okay, so next we have coming up is actually what we were supposed to be doing for you guys, which is gonna be my little ones, little things, the little things,
The little things. We had
the
some
little things out on HBO.
we had some like technical difficulties when we were gonna record that one. Omar's
Yeah.
computer kind of just like blew up. So
Like
we
the
figured
girl's
it out.
head.
Oh God, we've made too many jokes about that.
All right,
disturbing
I'm
scene.
sorry.
But so yeah, so we didn't get to do that one. But we did watch that movie, so we are gonna
Yeah.
post it.
So coming next Thursday at 10 a.m. My Little Things. That'll be what we talk.
Wait, is it Monday? No, I thought it was Monday, and then Thursday we're doing.
I was gonna say then we're announcing the other big thing.
I'm sorry, guys. Apparently, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
You host.
I've been
We'll figure it out. We'll let you guys know.
I've been confused with this retracking of our steps kind of thing.
Right.
But
so
I'm wrong. It's going to be Monday.
Right, it's probably gonna be Monday. Well, we'll keep everybody posted. But so we finished sci-fi. Obviously, that chapter's done. It's in the books.
Well, it's futuristic sci-fi. There's a lot of more sci-fi
There
to be
is.
discussed.
Well, I'm sure we'll also
Right.
get back to sci-fi movies at some point. There's only so many movie genres. Let's
But
be
we're gonna
honest,
have a
guys.
new genre coming out at you, and
genre.
I feel like we should discuss that on Monday with them.
Perfect. I'm down for that.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
All right, so stay on your toes, 3 listeners.
There are 3. I see you out there.
But anyway, it's been a pleasure, and I hope you guys enjoy this terrible, I don't know, movie. It's not terrible, but it's kind of terrible at the same time.
And I hope if you watched this review and didn't watch this movie, I hope everything we said scared the shit out of you, and then make your own decision.
All right,
All right, everybody.
See you Monday. Peace.
Peace.
Later, guys.